Welcome to the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast brought to you by ProudMouth. I'm your host, Matt Halloran. Being your own loud is not new to marketing, but the mindset, strategies, and resources to help you get there are evolving faster than this industry is keeping up. It is time to find a new perspective on what works why and how to move your business forward. Listen as I interview guests to help you learn from them how to be your own loud. Let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing Podcast. Now, there have been people who I've known for a while, and there are people who I've liked for a while. And luckily, the guy we have on, I've known and liked for a really long time. In fact, he was one of the first people who worked in the world of IMOs that I ever met, or FMOs that I ever met. And I remember leaving his presence and thinking to myself, man, if I could just present like that guy, I'd be worth $1 million. And that guy is Marc Rogers, everybody. He's the founder of Producers Prospect. And here is why he's on the show. Because the old IMO system is broken. It is broken. And he has created a new IMO, a new way of thinking about how you can truly market and be more successful in the 21st century. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. It's so funny you say that. I was literally thinking the other day about the first time I met you and you blowing me away and me thinking, okay, if I could just compose myself and handle a crowd like Matt Halloran, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So the feeling is mutual. You are somebody that I look as an industry leader, and what you're doing with this process and helping advisors create more value and financial literacy to their investors. Dude, there's not many of you out there, and I tip my hat to you, and I'm so grateful. So as I was thinking of developing this new brand and new opportunity, dude, you're number one on the list to reach out and say, let's go get it. So I'm so excited to be here.
And you have the freedom, right? And so this is the best part of striking out on your own. Now, I did this many years ago, and I didn't have the bevy of connections and relationships and experience that you have. And I don't know if you guys know this, but first off, I'm going to say this right out of the gate. You have to follow Marc Rogers on social media. Now, we're going to make sure, LinkedIn specifically, we're going to make sure that his links are in the show notes, because he is consistently putting out content that is a new way of thinking about marketing. Where did this come from? Let's talk about Marc Rogers' origin story, about how you started coming up with what Producers Prospect can be for advisors.
Well, it's such a great question. And I've been ultimately blessed to have so many great mentors in my life. I happened to get started, brought into the business by the founding father, the godfather, if you will, of equity indexed annuities, Doug McDermott. I mean, that was the guy that helped me cut my teeth into the business, teach me how to get in front of people, and then ultimately said, hey, come work with me, come coach advisors. And that was the annuity store. They were kind of the first to the IMO space. He was flipping quarters and handing out dollar bills and teaching the story of equity indexed annuities all across the country. I was his number one recruiter on his team, and we were a big deal before IMOs even came out. I was blessed with that. And then I've had other mentors throughout my career in their own places that have really helped me develop my process. But one of the things that I've always prided myself on is what's next, right? I think that one of the major issues with IMOs is they spend too much time on, this is how we've always done it. And they stop thinking about what's going to be cutting edge, what's going to help an advisor really, truly set themselves to be unique and different in their marketplace. And how are they going to connect into that new group of people that need to hear the story? And today, look, we're all on iPads. We're all on our phones. We're meeting with doctors on our phone. Like, are you kidding me? From my house? Why would you need a corner office on a strip mall to say XYZ Jones or whoever you need to be up at the top and never have a digital presence? And so my whole forward thinking is very hip to hip with you, which is you got to be showing up everywhere. And if you're not digital, or if people can't find your voice, You literally do not exist today. And that's, Matt, that is the future of education and communication and being able to have a repeatable process in your business.
Something that I've always respected about how you coach advisors is you do teach them the importance of sales, but it's way more about the relationship. Something that you have done forever is this idea of how to hold a proper seminar, right? You're breaking down like core stuff that people just like, oh, well, it's a PowerPoint presentation and there's stakes, but you do it in such a different way. Talk about that just for a second, if you don't mind.
Well, I was always taught that all the little things matter. So whether it's a live dinner seminar, or it's a virtual seminar that people are attending, or an on-demand educational seminar, the little things count. And today, because we're in such a digital age, the old world of sending out a mailer in the mail and somebody gets it, doesn't hear from you, and they show up on a random Tuesday night, they're looking around, they come into the restaurant, they're wondering if you really exist and they really have an invitation to dinner. And then the reality is a lot of those people are professional plate lickers because they're on to eating free dinner the next night. What I have found is all the touches matter. Even down to today, when somebody signs up for my workshop, they're getting a text message, not an email. They're getting a text from you, and it's a video of you, the advisor, welcoming them. And then it's 3 days later getting another different touch, and it's something in the mail, and it's an interview from the advisor, all prior to dinner, or all prior to the virtual event. So those little things are critical to the overall conversion of taking somebody from a prospect into a client. And I'm talking about temperature in the room, the music being played, again, virtual or live, the slideshow of you and your clients, the funny commercials in between the presentation that relate to somebody. I'll give you a great example. There's a great video of Peyton Manning, and there is a Saturday Night Live type of video, but it's all about him being in retirement. Freaking hilarious. Where would I use that in a dinner presentation? Oh, I would use it in Knoxville, Tennessee, kicking off the presentation because everybody's wearing orange and they connect with that, right? And it makes people calm. And so it's all that kind of stuff. It's the way that the tables are organized, right? If you don't do those little things, people notice and people feel differently.
Yeah.
And so if you can make them feel, then they will listen to you, then they will hear you, and then they'll find about your passions. And it's incredible. I can't tell you how many times I'm pulling out stories from advisors saying, dude, you've got a great why, and you didn't say that in your presentation. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't think that I get I don't think that anybody cares about that. Well, dude, that's all they care about. Yeah. They want to know what keeps you up at night as an advisor and what you're thinking about, because then that aligns them to how you're going to help give them solutions. And that's what it's all about, dude.
All of the pre-work, all of the post-work. I want everybody to think about that. Like, you as the advisor are wrapping your arms around this person and giving them a hug consistently, even if you're not a hugger, right? All of those things that it is the details. So those professional plate lickers are going to get that text message and be like, whoa, this is serious. And then they're going to get that other message, in the mail, or they're going to get an email, or they're going to get a social media comment or anything like that. And they're going to be like, wow, this is not normal. I am a professional plate licker. I know that this is fundamentally unique and different. You provide, so you've got this amazing seminar system and webinar system, which you just touched on very briefly, but you also offer something that I don't think a lot of other IMOs have really embraced, which is actual coaching. So let's talk about that. You just said you have to start with the why. That's very coachy, Mark. And so let's talk about the sort of guidance that you and your team are going to provide advisors to make sure that their mind is right, not just their environment is right.
Well, I think I should start with what you're really talking about is tactical branding, tactical coaching, right? And tactical branding and coaching is different because it's not just, oh, I'm a turnkey seminar. I don't even, do we have that? Should you be doing that in your business? For sure. You can do that and you can be successful. But at some point, do you hit ceiling? You absolutely hit the ceiling, right? And what I like to start with is, who's your ideal client? What do you do for them? What do you want to more fully develop in your practice? So before I even ask an advisor or I throw up on them about all the fun, exciting goodies I've got. Yeah. If I don't understand what you do, how you help, or use the old baseball analogy of who's your high fastball that you love to hit and you're a really high percentage hitter, then why would I ever give you advice to do anything? That's first and foremost. Because once I find out who you're really good at working with, then whether it's a virtual, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a live seminar, or even a funky old newsletter going out, everything we do from here on out is centered around your ideal client, your best person. And I think that's tactical branding, right?
Well, and that is the first time. I mean, I've known you for a long time, and I've known that's stuff that you've really wanted to do. But that brand foundation, and I learned this from Kirk. I wanted to partner with Kirk, who you've known for years also, because he was really the marketing and branding expert. And I never really understood the impact of brands until I really dove into his brain, which, by the way, is moderately scary, but it's fascinating at the same time. But you have taken that to allow advisors to have a different level of confidence. Now, these are things that I'm going to be using words that are very foreign to most people who are thinking about an IMO or FMO. But when you do get in front of people in whatever media that is, whether that's blogging, whether that's video, whether that's podcasting, whether that's seminars, whether that's webinars, when you have that extra edge of confidence that working with you, because you help them find that voice, how did you find that for yourself?
Well, first off, I do everything personally. So one of the differences for me is I have my own client base. I'm sitting across from the table asking for a big check from them. And that allows me to see through the lenses of an advisor far more than I'm building something in a factory, hoping that this particular model is sexy for somebody, right? So let's just start there. I live and breathe and carry a bag like an advisor day in, day out, and I hear the challenges and I take those calls when the market's good and when the market's bad. I live it. I live it and breathe it, and I think that's the difference. So I've tried and tested it, and then I spend the time, right? I say, okay, we're going to stick to a strategy. We're going to see if that bait takes. And we're going to give it some time, and we're going to put it in different waters in different areas. And then we're going to make a change, and we're going to tweak this. And now we're going to watch that. So I just even look at the pandemic, where many of my colleagues, competitors, people were going to, quote, weather the storm. That drove me crazy when I would talk to an advisor, and they were going to weather the storm and hunker down in their house. And what I said is, no way, we're going to go to the marketplace. We're going to do this differently, and we're going to test it. I did something like 170 virtual seminars last year in 1 year, right? Do you think that I figured out through the process what works and doesn't work? Absolutely. And that's why, and I'll make a plug here for ProudMouth. That's what's so unique and different about working with you, is that ProudMouth and the branding and the marketing and the podcasting, you got to have all those lines today. Like, if you're going to be a successful guy, you got to show up digitally. And I'm even saying you got to work your CPAs and attorneys and referral relationships totally different than you ever have before. So that's a big kick that I'm on of, why are you not taking your CPA on to a podcast and interviewing them? Why are you not doing an on-demand, a Facebook Live go-to meeting with your attorney, with a realtor, and you're having weekly shows? Nobody wants to get a newsletter. Nobody even opens it up. But will I come and will I watch a 20-minute show of you interviewing an area of expertise like a CPA or attorney? Will I watch that? Absolutely, I will. Here's the other thing. If I'm a CPA or an attorney or another professional and I get invited onto their podcast or I get on to their virtual seminar or even their live dinner seminar, do you think that I would invite some of my top clients to attend to that? Very easily, right? But if it came down to it and you asked me to say, now give me 5 people right now to talk to, I'd never do that.
Yeah.
I'd never do that. So we got to rethink, right? We got to rethink everything that we're doing today.
Well, and you have the space to do that now, which is magnificent because you're not bound by any other organization. You are now bound only to yourself. And that is one of the reasons why I was really, well, I'm super proud of you, corny as that sounds. I'm super proud of you that you're taking this leap. It's a very calculated leap. I know that. And I know that the level of success that you're going to achieve is going to be more than you or I could have ever imagined because of it's the rethinking. And we believe wholeheartedly that a fully integrated marketing approach is really how you're going to win this digital strategy that Marc is talking about. So that means that you need to have a very good ability to speak. You already answer questions for people. Meeting somebody like Marc and having him help you tweak the speak is a huge benefit. Next, making sure that he has that branding, that you have that branding, and you go through his exercise of how to uncover that, which we know, Marc and I know, is inside of you right now. You just need somebody to take it out, which is even more powerful. And then scaling your marketing. So Marc, let's talk about how you help advisors still handle all of the details, but still scale their marketing so that they're not spending 90% of their time marketing, they're spending 10% of their time marketing and 90% of meeting with clients and prospects.
Well, first off, I would say that any good advisor knows how to delegate their practice. I mean, it's why you have staff, and any good advisor has staff that stay in their lanes. And what I would tell today is that I want you to delegate that to me and my team. So let me think for your forward processes on marketing and systems. Let me work with your staff to coach them properly on how to organize your clientele through an A, B, C, and D category so that we're making sure we're marketing to them correctly, right? So it's literally like hiring a business tactical coach to come in and assess everything and say, here's what I know to be successful. And that's going to help you scale up immediately, right? So delegate everything that you possibly can. And number 2, the old, why go reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
These guys are unbelievable. How many people want to build their own process? If I've already have it and it can be white labeled and customized to your sweet spot. Remember, if you're a high fastball hitter, that is what our marketing is going to be geared around. Why go somewhere else? And by the way, most of these IMOs, they were built in the 1900s, right? So you want somebody today building you content that they were using so long ago that it's not even relevant? Or do you want hot, fresh, new stories that you can repeat, rinse and repeat, and that it's scalable for your business, and that you have somebody focused on that 24/7 for you? That's what I want to be. I don't want to be masses of people anymore. That model's all gone. I want deep relationships that I'm totally integrated into their process, and then I'm bringing the best professionals in their area of expertise, like you, into somebody's practice that can make a whole lot of difference and watch people just have the success that they've always wanted to have. Stop running in the same hamster wheel. Here's the other thing. It shocks me that guys would be going to the same IMO that are all in the same area with one another, seeing each other at the events and coming back and knowing they've been given the same PowerPoint presentation as the next guy down the street. That's not customizing your business.
Yep.
Come to somebody that is totally going to integrate and make you stand out and make you look the best you possibly can for your specific niche. I love when and maybe you can share and talk about that a little bit, but how important today, Matt, is it to have a niche?
I just talked to somebody earlier today. It's crazy that you bring that up. First off, it's the absolute epitome of our brand foundation, which is to free the world's experts from the torment of sales. We wanted to do it to ourselves first, right? So Kirk and I and Lisa, our executive team, and the whole team that we have. I had a guy call me today. Okay, actually, no, let me rephrase that. An appointment showed up on my calendar. All right. So they're using our My Calendar link. The first word, there are two guys on the call. First words out of the senior partner's mouth was, "I'm already sold." And I'm like, ooh, I like that. That's awesome. And they asked some legitimate questions, right? About it almost always is about compliance, right? So we deal with that.
Sure.
But
Sure.
Think about that, everybody. Could you imagine if you had a fully integrated marketing system and if people called you, set appointments on your calendar, pre-sold because you've already taken the time to build relationships with them, but you can only do that in a specific niche. You can't do that to the masses. So this guy, back to the original conversation, or the guy, he wants to work with people who made a lot of money off IPOs. Okay, so he's in an area of the country where that happens all the time, right? And I Googled while I was on the call with him, there are no podcasts, zero podcasts about if you come into money in that situation. That's complex, right? By the way, that's not an easy financial unraveling, right? That's a big deal, and you need to have a professional in your corner. And that's what you're talking about. I mean, can you imagine? First off, we know exactly where they live, Mark. They live on Twitter. We know that's where they live. These high-tech companies, they live on Twitter. So you have to have a Twitter strategy. Do you have a Twitter strategy? Well, you will with Mark, right? So there's number one. Number two, how do you take your message and distill it down into tweets? Well, you need to have a fully integrated marketing plan. And if you don't have your brand, which what Mark takes you through, you don't have that messaging, it's not going to be consistent. And so it was just absolutely fascinating to me that the question you just asked me was a call I had at 9:30 this morning. And I reinforced with this guy because he was afraid. I was like, dude, you get one client. You get one of these IPO clients, you're going to pay for our marketing for forever. Like you're never even going to have to think about it again. And then if he had you in his corner, helping him solidify that message and do all of the other things that you need to do. Podcasting is great. I'm a huge fan, obviously, but it can't be your only strategy. You've got to have other strategies and you've got to have that major focus.
Too many times people think it's a daunting task, right? Oh, I've done my business for years this way. This is complicated. I don't understand it. How do you eat an elephant, right? You got to take it in bite-sized pieces, but that's why you want to delegate it to somebody. So I look at the kind of the myths and the facts about what people get worried about when they look to bring on a new system or bring something. Do I need to hire staff? Is it going to be compliant approved? What's the ROI? I love branding people that think, what's the ROI, right? Well, it's not about that. But what it's truly about is what's your messaging? Marketing is an investment. It's not an expense. And if you can do this and solidify your messaging, how much funner is the business? Like I bring that back, right? We spend so much time on B and C people that we don't even like to deal with anyways.
Yeah.
And then all the time I look at advisors and go, well, why are you spending the time with them? If you have the old 80-20 rule, what if you could take and from here on out, you only sat with your A clients? How much happier, how much fulfilling would life be? And by the way, you probably could do all those things that you wanted to do, like buy that new car or take your family on a vacation or give back to a charity that you want to give back to, because you're working and involved with the people you want to work with. That's making you more efficient. You're happier as a person. Don't we all want to be that? Exactly.
And shouldn't we be our own biggest fan? And I think that's what your process helps people uncover is they're proud of what they do. Do you guys remember that? I want you to think back to when you first got in the industry and you're like, you know what, I'm going to change the freaking world, man. And I'm going to make it so that people have guaranteed income. I'm going to make it sure that people are protected. I'm going to make sure that they have a great retirement plan in place. Do you remember that passion that you felt in your belly? What would happen if you had that again? And here's the thing is you can, right? You totally can, but you can't do it with old antiquated thinking. You've got to do it with what is working in the marketplace today. And Marc has worked with so many, not just advisors, but professionals. And I want to talk about that real quick before we wrap up today's podcast, because you have a heck of a bench. So I want everybody to know that we are on Marc's bench. We have been on Marc's bench for a long time, but we are officially on Marc's bench. We are absolutely going to be able to be working with everybody that Marc is working with. And we're really proud to have that relationship. So Marc, we want to thank you for that. That's a true honor. But you've got people way better than Kirk and I, and way better than the ProudMouth team that are on your bench. Let's talk about some of the other professionals that you are going to be able to pull from, or even better, that you've learned from, so that you can help implement their systems and advisors' practices.
Sure. When I went out to say, okay, if I was going to build the 92 USA basketball team, and I was going to bring Magic and Jordan and Bird in, that's what I wanted to surround Producers Prospect with, is taking the best minds in their lane and processes, and then creating a direct process that all works together. That's all integrated, that is simple, that's easy to follow, and is repeatable, right? So I brought in the leading groups that do live and virtual filling, where they're going to fill up your rooms, and you're going to have the best quality people, whether it's virtually or whether it's in a live setting. I've brought an unbelievable guy that will do digital marketing and email funneling and campaigns. If you want him to do voiceover work and video work, he can do that. I've got a team now that can actually set up 30-minute Sunday afternoon on your Channel 3 TV behind the biggest segments, and put you on as the area of expertise. And we can run shows. I just had an advisor run one of these last Sunday in LA, 65 calls in under 2 hours from his 30-minute show, and it costs less than doing a dinner seminar. So if you have a knack and you want to get on TV, we can put that together. But the key is having the strategies all work together. Too often, Matt, I see guys run out to a podcast that doesn't integrate back to their website, that doesn't tell the same story on their TV ad or their radio ad or their seminar. It's got to all come together, and it's got to all work simultaneously in their direct line, so that the fish are jumping, and it's the right fish, right? It's the right person that you want. I'm excited, man. And I can sit down with the more senior advisor and see what they want to more fully develop. Because, by the way, the $30 million producer, he wants to more fully develop his practice to be that $60 million guy, and the $1 million guy wants to be the $5 million guy, and so on. And so what I'm really excited about is we can customize the service, the packaging. We can be totally flexible into helping somebody in their budget grow and scale up, and then have dreams to keep moving forward, so that you don't cap out. It's not, here's the dinner seminar, and at some point you're going to be bloody tired of feeding steak dinner to people over and over again. How do we more fully develop your practice? How do we keep getting you in front of those A clients in new ways that weren't built in the 1900s, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to partner with professionals like you, and let's go get started. Let's go to work.
So this is, okay, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, Marc?
Well, I think really easy is, like you said, follow me on LinkedIn. If you looked at Marc Rogers, MarcRogers, Marc Rogers. My parents wanted to really screw people up. No K, no D. But we'll have that conversation about mom and dad later. Yeah. Or you can go check out my website, producersprospect.com, my Instagram, Producers Prospect. Go check that out. Set up a time. I've got a Calendly link right off my website. We can do a marketing consultation, and would love to do it, right? I don't charge for that. Have a different conversation. Get excited again, like you said. Let's revitalize. Let's more fully develop your practice. Let's retool it, whatever you want to call it. But let's get better. Let's get better for our clients, most importantly. Let's educate them like they should be, because you should be getting favorable introductions over and over again if you're doing the right things. And that's what I want to help you do.
Yeah. The old system is broken, everybody, and it's about time for somebody to rebuild something from the ashes that have been created with old FMOs and IMOs. And Producer's Prospect is that for you. Lastly, it is really truly about integration, right? You can't have what Kirk and I refer to as Franken marketing, right? If your messaging, if your approach, if the feeling is not consistent across everything that you do, and a lot of you do a lot, then you're actually doing more damage to your practice and your brand than you're doing benefit. Please make sure that you follow. Mark, we're going to make sure that we have all of those links in our show notes so make sure that people can follow you. This is awesome. I'm super happy about this. I'm so happy about this direction that you're going. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who you're going to force to wake up and say, look, this is the way that it should be. It's not the way that it is. And that's really when real change happens. So Mark, thanks for being on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate you.
All right. If you know somebody who's working with an IMO or an FMO and they're really not as happy as you think they should be, you should really refer them to this episode of this podcast. All you have to do is click that share button below. Super easy to make sure that you can communicate this great information, this energy, this new way to look at things with your advisor friends. And if you have not subscribed to the podcast, I have no idea what you've been doing because we've got over 300 of these in the can. But if you want to, please subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you as a full-time subscriber. So for Producer's Prospect, Marc Rogers, and all of us here at ProudMouth, we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon. Thanks for listening to the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, brought to you by ProudMouth. If you want to learn more about how you can be your own loud, visit our website, read our blog posts, attend our educational webinars, and sign up for our new Influence Accelerator Academy, where you too can learn how to truly be an influencer in your space. Have a wonderful day.